Hi, I'm Courtney, and today I'm going to be reviewing a public lecture I went to about a week ago. So the lecture I went to go see was by Destin Sandlin, and it was on how helicopters work. So one of the reasons I wanted to go to this specific lecture was because I actually am already subscribed to his YouTube channel and watch his videos when they come out. So I thought it'd be really cool to go and see his perspective face to face, but I also thought that it'd be a cool chance to see how he applies engineering to his job. So one of the cool things about this lecture was it was actually inspired by how he finished his master's degree and was finished with defending his thesis, and then as he was walking outside, he has a master's degree in aerospace engineering, and as he was walking outside, he looked up and saw a helicopter and didn't know how it worked. Master's in aerospace engineering and didn't know how it worked. So he decided to figure that out. So the main purpose of this lecture was to describe how helicopters work. So helicopters are very complicated, as it turns out. And to just describe a little bit of how helicopters work specifically, you kind of have to have a full body motion when you're operating them. So in order to go up and down, there's a lever called the collective that you use. And then to go from side to side, there's a lever called the cyclic. And what you do is you combine the use of the cyclic and the collective in order to move. But what's weird is how helicopters are actually used to move around. See, the way the helicopter works is you have to kind of apply the force out of phase of the helicopter. So if you wanted to go forward, instead of moving the collective, you would move the collective and the cyclic up and down, but you have to apply a force that's 90 degrees to the phase of where you're wanting to go on the helicopter. So you kind of have to apply lift to the side of the helicopter, which makes it extra confusing and much more complicated to operate. What's cool about helicopters is that it's a full body motion, and it kind of is, in my mind, it appears like it's somewhat reverse of how it should be intuitively, but I think that's what makes it really unique. One of the cool things Destin explained about helicopters was that you can actually land a helicopter even if the engine goes out, and this is called an auto rotation. Overall, his explanation on helicopters was really cool and really neat, and something that I want to explore further. So this lecture interested me because I wanted to go see Destin and see how he works outside of YouTube, but I also wanted to get an idea on how engineering is applied to the real world. I'm in my third year here at Georgia Tech, and I'm still kind of nervous about how I'm going to apply these principles that I'm learning outside in the real world. So I thought it'd be really cool to go and see and get his perspective. So one of the things that interested me about this lecture specifically was his explanation on helicopters and how there are really a lot of parts that go to it, much more than I thought would go with helicopters. And I kind of like the old school aspect of it where, you can add all types of code and computer interfaces to make the helicopters a lot easier to fly, but at the end of the day, it's all about the manual operation, and that's what I thought was the most cool about this lecture. One of the interesting things I learned because I attended this lecture was how he introduced the topic of helicopters, and he introduced this topic by describing a chicken. So the coolest thing I learned was how chickens, why they bob their heads. And it's because their heads move somewhat like gyroscopes, and he used this principle to describe the overall instruction of how helicopters work. And I thought it was really cool because chickens will move their head in one direction and then their body will follow. And it was really kind of neat to see and see his perspective on that. But it was also really funny to just watch chickens bob their heads around. And I thought it was really cool in how to explain the topic on a real world and a real life occurrence that we see every day. So during the questions and answers phase, he actually let it slip that one of his next videos was going to be on vortex collisions. So of course I had to go and learn a little bit more about that. And not surprisingly, they're actually incredibly complicated. But one of the cool things about vortex collisions is that if you have two vortexes that are coming together and collide, they collide in this way that almost kind of creates different vortexes in a perpendicular pattern. It's very neat. And what's cool about it is the two vortexes that existed, they completely die, but they create this really cool abstract kind of arrangement of vortexes, and it's really neat. And I'm actually very excited to see his video and learn more about it. So overall, I really enjoyed going to this lecture, not only to learn more about helicopters, but also to see how engineering can be applied in real life. Thanks. Have a good day.